Gents, we all know that modern women have been putting off serious relationships and marriage since the push of the womanist agenda, and now we have a generation of women over 30 that don't have a ring on their finger or a child on their waist. They were sold a lie that they could have it and all they needed to do was focus on their career, ride the rooster rotation until the wheels came off, go and get the bag, level up, and when they were ready, the man of their dreams will be waiting on them to marry them up so he can get divorced great to kingdom come in the end. However, reality is often cruel, and they learned right at age 30 that the womanist Kool-Aid that they were sipping was a lie and they could not have it all. These women spent their best years wasting time, hooking out and living their best life, partying, shaking their asses at the nightclubs, only to end up at age 30 all alone and with no man to commit and wife them up in sight. How many times have these stories been played out in real life with countless modern women? These women had everything they needed up front to get the best life possible, only to waste it on having fun and working for a corporate job title that means nothing in the real world. They had numerous men offering to take care of them and give them a decent life, but it was not enough because they felt empowered working hard at their desk job while carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt for a useless degree they didn't intend to pay off. This is just a summary of the modern woman over 30 who chose a job and sex over family. Now, I don't care or give a damn what happens to these ex-exes because they chose to make that decision. They had plenty of offers, but they were the ones who didn't need a man, and they could do bad all by themselves, so why should I care? Exactly, when they reach the infamous 30 and all the attention starts to disappear gradually, that's their fault, not mine. They wanted to be defiant to the very end, so I say let them die alone. Don't try to save them, don't go into a relationship with them and be the man she settles for. Just stay away from these people. Stay single and free if you don't want to be used and discarded like tissue. And if you don't want to give up all of what you slaved away to build, then stay single and free. The free agent lifestyle is the way to go, brothers, and if you want to check it out, the book will be linked in the description box below. With that said, I think you know now is the time to go over an article of a woman explaining how hard it is to be single in her 30s. I found a lengthy article that sounds really good. I only read a few words and I liked the title. So today, we're going to see what women in their 30s are really thinking when they still don't have a man. This article is from the Vogue, titled, "How Did I Become the Last Single Person in My Friend Group?" Gents, I think it's going to be a good one. Grab a snack, tap the like button so more men will see this video, and let's dive into it. So it starts off. I am officially the last single person in my friend group. How did this happen? It feels like just yesterday we were being rejected from Raya, and now suddenly, everyone is scouting for wedding venues upstate except me. I'm starting to realize how different and freakish being single feels in your 30s, and it doesn't help that our 30s is also the decade where we spend so much of our time and money celebrating other people's coupledom. Because of course, I want to spend Labor Day weekend manually inflating a 6-foot blow-up salami, drinking the month's rent worth of rosé, and pretending to be happy for Karen. When I was younger, I took it for granted that my friends would always be available for hungover brunches and emergency threesomethings. But now, seeing my friends usually means being the one single person amid a mob of couples who treat me either like hired entertainment, meaning tell us a funny Tinder story clown, or like their problem child. For instance, my friends and I have spent summer weekends at a shared beach house on Fire Island for years. There are 3 bedrooms and 1 pull-out couch, and suddenly this year I keep being demoted to the couch so the couples can have privacy. Excuse me, but do single people not need privacy? I get that they want to have sex on their vacation, but where am I supposed to jerk off? This is my vacation too, people. There's no other way to look at it. I am a hashtag victim of couple privilege. Alright gents, this woman is kinda funny, not gonna lie. The thing is, she sees everyone around her getting wifed up, and she doesn't try to get a man to commit. Let me be real with you guys, because we always make fun of women ending up alone and with their cats, but it's not hard for them to find someone to at least stick around in a long-term relationship. There are plenty of dudes that are willing to do that, unfortunately. However, she's where she is today because she spent so long in the carousel with men and apparently women and prioritized sex over a husband. That's why I always say don't feel sorry for them or try to save them because they chose to be where they are. Right now, a woman in her 30s still has men who would be with her in a relationship, and years later, she could get him to marry her, but the men she wants aren't gonna do it. That's the difference, guys. There's always a nice guy that would do it, but that means she would have to settle, and she doesn't want to do that. That's why they complain that they're single. It's not that there are 0 men. It's because the men they want don't want them, or the men they settled for don't want to get married. I know a young girl in this predicament, so trust me, it's the same with older women. past age 35, men typically won't marry older women regardless if he's a simp. And whose fault is that? Let's continue. As a millennial womanist, allow me to run with this victim thing. Last week, I had a new air conditioner delivered, only to realize that it was too heavy for me to carry up 4 flights of stairs to my apartment. So being single, I had to hire a random man from the internet to carry it for me. Then I had to hire a different man to install it, only to have that man explain that I'd bought an AC with the wrong voltage for my building, which meant that I had to rehire the first man to carry the AC back downstairs again. When I told this story to my mom, she responded with a sigh, "See, this is why you need a boyfriend." Air conditioners, broken toilets, a raccoon in the basement, that all becomes their problem. See, gents, this is what strong and independent looks like. This is what I need a man like a fish needs a bicycle looks like. If she had a man, he could have sorted all of those out for her. But no, she's strong and independent, so she has to pay the price of being strong and independent. So why is she complaining? Why doesn't she call the long list of men that was pushing her insides to her esophagus for the past decade? Because none of those men stuck around, that's why. And again, I ask, whose fault is that? Let's continue the article. But it's not just that being single suddenly feels alienating in your 30s. It's also that dating itself becomes more difficult. For one, the stakes are higher. You don't want to waste your time on someone who doesn't feel like they could be the one. But simultaneously, thinking, would he make a good dad? After knowing someone for the duration of a martini makes you feel like an insane rom-com cliché of a woman. Not ideal. Essentially, we are far more discriminating in our 30s than in our 20s, which is both a blessing and a curse. We know more about what we want and what we won't tolerate, but to a point where almost no one is good enough. I find myself having thoughts like, I could never date him, he wears V-necks, or he was nice but sleeps in a mezzanine bed. And this perpetual dissatisfaction is especially true in New York, where inflated egos are paired with incredibly high standards and the illusion of infinite choice. That cliché of thinking someone better might be just around the corner is real, but I keep turning corners and meeting finance guys with high cholesterol who just discovered Williamsburg. Sometimes I think I should have picked someone when I was 25 and stupid and then just made it work. See, brothers, I told y'all they have options even at 30, and she mentions that she doesn't want to waste her time, and that's true because she doesn't have time to waste. That wall is creeping slowly but surely, and she knows it because she unknowingly starts to describe herself in RP language. Anytime you hear a woman starting to talk RP talking points, it means she's been humbled. Never forget that. Now back to the point where women in their 30s have options. As you can see, she can find men who are willing to date her or be in a long-term commitment at the very least. I can't speak on the marriage part because she's older than prime marriage age, but it's not like she can afford to be picky anyways. But as you can see, she's still picky even at 30, and to her detriment, she knows all of her best options were when she was in her 20s. And now that they're gone for good, she'll never get the top-tier guys like she used to, so why doesn't she take what she can get, humble herself and ride it out to old age? They just can't do it, and that's why they become leftovers of their own choice. Continuing. The catch is that the pool of soulmates keeps getting smaller as we become increasingly picky. Here's another 30s development. Now, when I meet a cute guy, he's often already married. Just recently, I felt like I was truly connecting with my orthodontist. I mean, he's literally been putting his fingers in my mouth for 6 months, only for him to drop last week that he has a wife. I felt missled. This past weekend, I was commiserating about 30 singledom with my friend Steve, a 35-year-old TV producer who lives in Chicago. Okay, I'm going to be really misogynistic for a minute, Steve told me from the phone, but I think that women, even if they are modern and womanist and independent or whatever, still feel pressure to get married and grow up in that specific Disney lifestyle kind of way. So the women who are my age-ish, who are still single, are kind of the thing leftovers. They're the people who couldn't get their ish together, and they're kind of crazy, believe me, I know because I dated them all. While Steve acknowledges that this whole life thing is unquestionably harder for women, he says that guys also suffer through the 30 single shift. In your 30s, everything becomes more segregated, he mused. Couples hang out with other couples. People with babies hang out with other people with babies. Eventually, you stop being invited to the dinner parties or on the vacations because why would you want to be on holiday with a bunch of people who are shacking up together? Steve sees this clan-like behavior creeping into the workplace as well. At my age, people seem to trust you more if you're in a relationship because you seem more stable, he said. I'm a freelancer, so I'm constantly having to sell myself to new people, and now when I tell them I'm single, I just get this look that says, "What happened?" The thing that scares me the most, Steve went on, is thinking about the future. I recently had a 60-year-old Uber driver who wasn't married and had no kids, and he was like, yeah, I'll just Uber around, passing the time. Like, I don't want to be that. I want to be surrounded by people who love me when I'm old, not making small talk with strangers, then going home to crack a can of tuna and get on Reddit. I'd rather be dead. He paused for dramatic effect. Maybe all the people who are biased against single people are right. Maybe there is something wrong with us. Well, Steve did say some dumb things, and he said some straight facts. He's assuming that the old man was miserable driving people around all day. It wasn't stated in the article that the man was miserable, so I will say there's a strong possibility that the old Uber driver, if he indeed is single, is probably happy that he has his peace, quiet, and freedom. Men always take their peace, quiet, and freedom for granted when they're single, but when they get a nagging girlfriend, they'll want that peace, quiet, and freedom back as fast as possible. Anyways, Steve needs to start living the free agent lifestyle or go his own path. That's all I have to say. Let's continue. Like many women, I spent most of my 20s wondering if a conventional relationship and family were something I even wanted. If you had asked me 2 years ago about having a family, I would have been like, why would I have kids when I could devote my life to more important things like blogging and attending mediocre sex parties? But now I'm like, I'm too lazy to go out. Maybe I should just start a family. I guess biology is real. There comes the point at which eating steak alone at La Bernardine and winking at strangers no longer feels exciting. You rather actually connect with another human being on a level deeper than I'm drunk and you're in front of me. And one thing that I definitely don't want is to hit 35 and enter a uterus panic mode. This woman is giving us good content that I've never mentioned on the channel due to how many videos I've done so far. One thing you guys must understand when dealing with women in their late 20s to mid-30s and possibly all the way to their early 40s is that their bodies will make one last-ditch effort to make them have kids. I call it baby rabies, where their biology takes over and tries to push them toward having a kid or two before menopause. One thing that you must understand is that we are all slaves to our biology, and no matter what scientific advancements come along, we all have an innate coding in our DNA to push and continue the human race. Unfortunately, it took womanism to bust that up by telling women to put off having babies, but if you're not a part of the deaf, dumb, and blind, you know it's the new world, you know who, that's behind the agenda of population control. Anyways, I was trying to say that if you marry a woman in her 30s and she gets the baby rabies, she will want to get pregnant on you. Even if you have to jack off in a petri dish and spend tens of thousands of dollars on in vitro fertilization to get it done, she will push you to do it. Another thing to watch out for is the infamous praying mantis I heard from Coach Greg Adams. Basically, the woman pushes you to bust inside her belly so she can have a kid, and then when she gets the kid and no longer needs you, she gets rid of you, which happens when the child is young, as early as age 1 month to age 9. The reason why it's called the praying mantis is because that's the name of the insect that when they are mating, the female praying mantis bites the head of the male praying mantis during or after the act. Interesting, isn't it? She mentions wanting connection, but we know that's not possible when you've been ran through. She's just lonely and desperate, which is never a good deal for a man, and I would recommend staying away from women like that. There's more that she has to say, so let's continue. In 2010, Lori Gottlieb authored the polarizing bestseller Marry Him, The Case for Settling for Mr. Good Enough. The book is an account of Gottlieb's experience as a single woman approaching her 40s. Gottlieb argues that compromises are essential components of relationships, both when we're in them and when we're navigating the dating world. We'll never get everything we want, she suggests, so having a family is important to you at a certain point. You just have to pick someone and procreate. Basically, don't be in denial about the fact that your marital value is higher in your 20s and early 30s, and the longer you hold out for Mr. Right, the smaller your chances are of actually finding him or even someone good enough. Of course, that sounds unromantic and literally terrifying, but part of me appreciates the harshness of it. Similarly, I've recently become obsessed with clinical psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel. One of his common sentiments, and I'm paraphrasing, is this: women, I know we live in a modern society where you are told to prioritize your career and put off marriage and family until later. But the reality is, just because you're a woke womanist with a trendy loft apartment who's passionate about her career doesn't mean that you've somehow transcended your biology. Most people, women especially, who don't end up forming a family unit will live to regret it. Not long ago, I would have brushed this off as misogynistic, but I'm starting to wonder if that's simply a cop-out because I'm afraid of dealing with this harsh reality. Gents, that's why she has RP talking points, because she listens to Jordan Peterson. Now it makes sense because I wondered where she got so many RP talking points from. And again, this article breaks down why women end up all alone. They have their priorities out of order. They overwhelmingly choose sex and career over family, and I thought they said men were the dogs that couldn't keep it in their pants. Well, let's finish up. I'm literally cringing while typing this, but I also think that a lot of people, particularly people in creative fields whose professional lives have less predictable trajectories, see themselves as always on the brink of making it. Like, well, my career is just about to take off, after which I'll be rich and famous, and then I'll have access to better, hotter people. I have been quietly thinking that to myself for 10 years now, and while I don't think my career is going poorly, if you had asked me at 25 what I would be doing at 31, I would have said that I'd have already written a best-selling book and made a movie. And while those things are still on my to-do list, my older, more realistic self has to acknowledge that they might actually never happen. We all will likely end up being more mediocre than we thought. This magical pool of super boyfriends might never manifest, and at this rate, most of them will already be married if and when they do. I suppose I'm acknowledging that I'm encroaching on leftovers territory. However, I would argue that the leftovers are not always crazy, but often are the women who refuse to subscribe to the Disney Fox happy ending, and who therefore lead more interesting and strange lives. So maybe I will end up settling to some degree. But in the meantime, I'll just keep eating steak alone and RSVPing to orgies. Oh, and I should probably freeze my eggs. Women always think that more money automatically means better partners. There is some truth to that. However, you have to be young to make it make sense. Most rich guys don't want no old gremlin when they have so many options for younger women. I can respect her realistic approach to writing this article, and you guys should take heed of what she said because this is precisely how most modern career-driven womanists think. With where the economy is headed, I think you'll hear less of that and more, I just want a man. And my advice to you is to pay these women to leave after you beat up that wet vice grip. Gift her a couple $100 to do whatever she wants, make sure she reaches home safely, and continue living your life as a free agent. It's your choice at the end of the day, but I would advise you to have a long memory and remember all the BS they were saying and doing at the height of the womanist movement and don't wife up any of them. If you're new here and like our videos, then subscribe to the channel for more hard-hitting RP content. The links to our Cash App and PayPal are in the description box below if you want to donate to the channel. Also, if you want to learn why you should not date women over 30 with 3 reasons to run to the hills, then click the video on the screen right now to get this free information.